Hello, welcome back. If at first you don't succeed, try again. Okay, so we were talking about the Oracle, I believe. We're talking about Sir Gino being ruled out. And then we cut to David Stevens and his face broke the internet. So fingers crossed it won't happen again, David.
If at first you don't succeed, have someone fired and start again. So
I'm sorry to tell you, mate. I'm sorry to tell you it's you. This week it's you, but never mind. Okay, well, for what people missed, you summed up the Arkle situation, and then you ended on a very depressing note. So take it away.
I'm going to scrap the depressing note this time. Look, when we previewed the Arkle last week, nobody would have been surprised if today we were talking about a long odds-on favourite for the Arkle. Unfortunately, I think we were all hoping it was going to be Sir Gino. He didn't show up at Newbury, obviously, and then the news today is a little bit more serious. So he's out for the season, but it leaves Masborough, who was, of course, so impressive last year in the Triumph Hurdle, was always going to be a chaser. He's now 8-15, and there is some consolation. I guess those that watched last week, most people thought, or certainly the people on the panel thought that Loda Sud at 14-1 was the each-way alternative. We were rather underwhelmed with his Warwick win at the time, left him unchanged at 9-1, but he's now into 5-1 second favourite. So disappointing for Sir Gino, but hopefully he'll be back next year because he's such an exciting prospect.
And you were watching the racing at Poe at the weekend, weren't you, David?
I tell you what, some people might have missed this. 3:45 yesterday afternoon. So French race, it went off 10 minutes later. A horse called Hip Hop Conti. He's a bit of a star of the cross-country scene in France. He's 8-1 for the Glenfarclas. And honestly, if he comes over, I think he's going to set a pretty high standard. So, Keels, I know you love the bumper and I know you love the cross-country even more. I know you're very busy, so I didn't want you to miss it. Hip Hop Conti. Just take a look.
Thanks, mate. I'll make sure to go and look at that, I promise.
Yeah, he absolutely will. He's going to go just watch a frozen picture of your face first. But anyway, let's reflect on the weekend very quickly, shall we? Obviously, it gave Sir Gino being out, it gave Master Chewy a chance to shine, and who knew he stayed 2 miles, Keels?
Oh, what a nightmare. I backed Liberty Hunter. I was only Master Chewy. He's found loads.
Yeah, he did.
Brilliant. Brilliant. I mean, I spent a little while back in Master Chewy last year, especially against Founder 50 at Aintree, and he just looked to get battled out of it, didn't he, and outstayed, and then, in a reasonably strong run race, he's run the race of his life, hasn't he? Well played to him. Yeah,
and given that he ran a blinder at Aintree last year, I'm not sure I'd go to the champion chase, but I'd be back at Aintree.
It was 2.5 miles, a great one there, isn't it? A great race there, isn't it? So, yeah. He'll have a rating of about, I don't know, 156, 157 now when he's running the red run.
Yeah.
Be high enough, wouldn't it? That's the issue with him now.
Yeah, fair enough. Other horses to mention from the weekend, Maddy. I mean, are we underestimating Jello here, or J-Lo, however you want to pronounce his name? He's still double figures for the Ryanair. He ran to an RPR of 170 as a 7-year-old at the weekend. Native River only ran to 168 and then finished third in a Gold Cup.
Not sure if we're underestimating him, Ross, but I thought it was a very interesting race in the fact that he was ridden differently to how we often see Charlie Deutsch ride these races, and that he came from behind. There was a stage where it didn't look like he was going to pick up at all. He was being nudged along, and then suddenly in the straight, he just emerged and overtook all the others like he was, not putting any effort in at all, and then won really impressively. I'm not sure whether the Festival is going to see him in as just a stronger light, but he's certainly a very talented horse and he's going the right way, and that form with Protectorate has certainly been franked. I would be looking at the latter named for the Ryanair personally.
Yeah, to be fair, he might, the bowl might suit him down to the ground, actually.
Well, it might do, but he's 1-1 with Protectorate, isn't he? You know what I mean? So, and he obviously wasn't right at Windsor, that can't have been him, and they knew he was right on Saturday because he was 4-1 overnight, he's gone off 6-4 Fav. And he did end up winning easily, and they put him to sleep early. And I think that was just the case he needed to be woken up. Because when he was woken up, he did an half pickup.
Well, it's interesting. I thought that initially, but what's interesting, they've done exactly the same with Long Press this season as well. So I don't know if it's been a concerted effort to go, look, if we want to perform at the biggest level, we can't just go bowling off.
Can't just go bowling off, yeah. And, I can I'm a massive fan of Protectorate, but I think Protectorate needs really soft ground, and he's not always going to get that at Cheltenham. He got it last year. It was absolutely perfect for him. I don't think Jello's the same thing. I wouldn't have him as big as he is, put it that way. No. Especially as we've got no idea what's going to run. We don't know where the factor file is going to go to or not. We assume so because he hasn't looked to stay, but we don't know what JP McManus's plans are. He's got Spillane Tower in it as well anyway. Yeah. We've got Ile Francais, who's not going to run in it if Factorvale does. Gaelic Warrior, who might run in it if it's not soft ground in the championship. No idea what's going to run in it. So, yeah, it could fall apart.
Yeah, it certainly could.
And that's the only race he's going to go for.
I mean, yeah, there's no other option really, is there? Anything else from the weekend that caught the eye? Anything behind Joyeuse, for example? Or
Navajo Indy. I mean, if they don't enter him for the Coral Cup, they don't know what they're doing, do they? Because he's obviously crying out for a step up in trip. He's a half brother to Navajo Pass, who showed his best form when stepped up to 2 mile 4 furlong, winning a handicap at Musselburgh for Donald McCain.
I think that's almost word for word what you wrote after the race of the weekend as well, Maddie. So you agree?
Was it? Oh, sorry,
Thanks,
sorry, Mad.
No, I just remember reading the.
It's fine.
Sorry,
we're clearly in agreement. No, I was asked to write a piece for the paper on which horse we'd take out Saturday for Cheltenham, and having had a fairly large anti-post wager on Navajo Indy at 20s and then again at 16s, I was hoping for a handsome payout, but it wasn't to be. Just he was rousted along from the get-go, wasn't it? And that was his game over. He was going in top gear the whole way. Yeah. Saw him emerging in the straight, but never thought he'd quite managed to pick up third, which he did. But yeah, Keels has said it all. Navajo Pass, full brother, won over 2.5 miles, was very smart, more precocious, slightly different type. This horse is a bit rangier. He's got a longer stride. He clearly takes a little bit more driving. I think the Coral Cup, although it's a big step up from 2 miles to 2 mile 5 up Cheltenham Hill, I think that's what they need to do with him at this stage in his career, and I still think he's potentially very well handicapped. So yes, with a heavy heart, I think he was the main horse to take out of the weekend for me.
He hasn't got a quote from anyone for it yet, judging by the list I've just looked at. Couldn't see him at all. He is rated.
Did speak to Tom Simmons about him before Newbury, and he missed an engagement at Sandown. But I did say to him, "Are you dreaming of Cheltenham?" And he did sort of suggest, I think voluntarily, he offered up the Coral Cup as well as the county, and that was before Newbury on Saturday. So I wouldn't say it's a forlorn hope.
Okay. Yeah.
No. He just hasn't been quoted yet. I mean, it's a fairly fledgling market, isn't it? Some firms haven't even bothered, which you can understand because there are no entries. He's only rated 128. He'd have squeezed in it off it last year. He might be easier to get in it off that now with so many novices not having run the required amount of times.
Yeah. So yeah, him and the same comments apply for Beat the Bat, I thought, who is never a 2 miler in a million years, and he's stepping up in trip. David Stevens, quickly before we move on, any other market movers from the weekend?
Dino Blue won the mare. She's now 7-2 favourite for the Mayor's Chase. JP McManus has a ridiculously strong hand in that contest. And on the subject of Jello, he was initially left unchanged at 20-1 for the Ryanair afterwards, but that soon became 14-1, and this morning he's now 10-1. So he's not been ignored by the punters.
Yeah, like I said, the 7-year-olds have won that race. You have Long Run, Clanders Oboe, Silvino Conti. I mean, it's Native River. I thought he is consistently underrated. Scotty Rudderham says Jello wins the Ryanair, so underrated. So not the only one. Maybe the money is starting to come. Okay, right. Let's move on then, shall we? To have a look at 4 races at this year's Cheltenham Festival. Starting off with the Mares' Hurdle and another bit of will she, won't she, could she, might she? Brighter days ahead, 4-6. Lossie Mouth.
Which one are you talking about?
Yeah, exactly. All of them, literally all of them. Actually, that's not true. This might be a theme of tonight, and also the previews going forward. But I do think there is an angle of just identifying the one horse who is almost certain to go to the actual race and backing her. In which case, this time I think is July Flower at 5-1. Cargesi is 6-1. Jay de Grugy 8-1. Take No Chances 10-1. Golden Ace 16s with Calaconte, and Bigger the rest. Obviously. Look, it's the same as the Champion Hurdle, isn't it? If the Champion Hurdle lined up last week, if all these turn up, it'll be a great race. if all these turn up, Keels, it'll be a great race.
Yeah, but we know they're not going to, don't we? Which is why, I mean, if you look at the non-runner no bet list, I mean, they're betting to more than 200%, most of them.
Yeah.
You take Lossymouth out and assume that Brighter Days Ahead is going to run. The NRNB is still 150% for the top 8 or 9 in the betting, and it'll only be 120% on the day. So, you've got to be careful when you bet non-runner no bet this close to the festival, because the chances are you're going to get a better price on the day anyway. Yeah. Depending what happens. Now, Brighter Days Ahead, we do not know whether she's going to go here or not. Connections seem to be leaning that way, don't they? And, the likes of Annie Power, Honeysuckle, both won a mare's hurdle before they dipped their toe in the champion. So did Applejade, ran in it twice for the same credit for the Chigginsdale Connections.
That is true, but as someone said on the chat last week, none of those horses had just beat one of their main rivals for the champion hurdle by 30 lengths. So it's I know what you mean.
But we also know that State Man wasn't State Man that day because Winter Fog also beat him. So I think she's got she'd have a massive chance in the champion hurdle if she ran. But you've got to think she's going to lean here. The Mullins camp, on the other hand, have said that it's still the plan for the champion hurdle, and we've got to believe that until it isn't. So what happens if Brighter Days Ahead runs? She wins, doesn't she? It's as simple as that. Yeah. Can you bet anything anti-post at those sort of prices now? Because all the rest of them will be bigger. So I couldn't, as a race to bet in, I couldn't get that interested in it. I think Cargizi will be a lot better second time because she was way too free at Ascot. I can see the case for July Flower, but I thought a couple of those that she beat on her Irish debut, most notably Jatara, were way below form, and Jatara has run better than that since and before. Was only beaten 3 lengths by Dancing City at Leopardstown last year. Yeah. And Jatara was 25 to 1. July Flowers 5s, but not a race I'm going to be getting involved in either now or on the day, to be honest.
Well, I'm going to try and sway you towards it on the day by saying that 6 of the last 9 favourites are all being beaten, and the biggest was 6 to 4. So there can be an upset. July Flower is interesting for a couple of reasons. One, because Henry de Bromhead's horse has been running so badly, and they always bounce back. I was looking back, 2022, he had an 8% strike rate in December and January, and then he won the Champion Hurdle, the Turners, and the Gold Cup that year. And it was similar last year. It just always is similar for Henry at that time of year. So the fact that July Flower did that when his horses were so badly out of form is interesting. But the other one that interests me, Maddy, is Jade de Grugy, who we haven't seen since last spring, of course. But I don't know if Willie Mullins has got any history of bringing back a very talented mare after a year off and winning this race at at the Cheltenham Festival. But she's 3 from 3 over 2 mile 2 or 2.5, and she wasn't far behind Brighter Days Ahead last year. So yeah, interesting. What do you think?
I think for me, she comes with risks attached, not only because we've not seen her, but also because of the way she races. She's incredibly keen going, and I'm not sure this trip is necessarily what she's going to want first time out with a big atmosphere. Can see her being quite gassy if they manage to get a run into her in between. Then is that going to come too close? And at 8 to 1, she doesn't interest me. I'm going to nominate another horse. We're talking about the Brighter Days Ahead, the Lossymouths, even Golden Ace. We don't know whether they're going to turn up in this race or not. Keels has mentioned her briefly, but I was actually looking at Jatara and wondering if she'd pop up in the stayers earlier on today. If she doesn't and she runs here, obviously she'd be getting the weight allowance in the stayers. And I've been really trying to find a bet in that race, to be honest. So she could well be it. Perhaps not anti-post, but on the day. But I'd still be interested in her if she turns up here. Some of her form from last year reads incredibly well. Like Keels has touched upon, beaten 3 lengths by Dancing City in a Grade 1 at Leopardstown, was then 3rd to Jade de Grugy at Fairyhouse, but that came over 2 mile 4, a trip that she was then 2nd to Ballyburn. Over 3 miles at Doncaster last time, she stayed it incredibly well, possibly in front of the slight non-stay Katira. But I just think that was a case of that was her best run this season by some way. And I think you can totally discount the 16th length beat in July Flower gave her at Leopardstown in December, because that was an RPR of 125. That was a considerable way below her best. And I think a 7-year-old, she's put in probably the best run of her life. Well, in fact, it was on RPRs last time at Doncaster in a Grade 2. I think she's going to eat the hill for breakfast. And I think she's probably slightly better than some people are thinking she is at this stage in her career. So at the prices, when you can get 8-1 about Jade DeGrugy, that doesn't interest me too much when you can get 25 about Chatara.
Yeah, fair enough. Like you said, it feels like she's been around for quite a while and is very exposed, but she does take a lot of racing, but she is only 7 years old, so is, like you said, in theory, ready to peak. Mares Hurdle, David Stevens.
Yeah, a race clearly revolves around brighter days ahead, but let's not forget Golden Ace, of course, who is a festival winner. Now, she hasn't been the same filly mare so far this season, but Jeremy Scott's been very open about the terrible season he's had. She obviously runs, she should run at Wincanton on Saturday. If she goes and runs well against Burdett Road, she won't be a 16-1 shot. I thought Take No Chances. I know what you're saying about Cargeezy will improve for that Ascot run, but I thought Take No Chances won that race very well at Ascot. And again, she's one of those that is almost certainly going to line up, be part of the down Skelton squad for this. So they'd be a couple, but look, brighter days ahead that we've seen this year turns up. Clearly, she's going to take a world of beating, and she's a subject of the first price boost, which is brighter days ahead to win this Mares Hurdle by more than 4 lengths, and that is a 3-1 shot.
Thank you very much.
I think Golden Ace, I could see her running in the Champion Hurdle. Jeremy Scott's been wanting to step her back down to 2 miles. I spoke to him earlier on the season, and reading between the lines, I very much got the impression that he thought she was worth a go at a Champion Hurdle. I have, stupidly is probably the right word, backed over the Champion Hurdle earlier this year at 100-1 because I thought it was a ridiculous price on a line through the brighter days ahead form. Lots of people will consider that a fluke. I'm not sure it was. I think, she's still got that piece of form to her name. She's still beat brighter days ahead fair and square, really. And the stable have had excuses this season, as has she, racing over a trip too far. And that form hasn't worked out too badly anyway. But I could imagine they'll go for the Champion Hurdle. I'm not sure they'll go for this race just because of the trip.
Yeah, that is fair enough. And yeah, I mean, people can say a fluke, but yeah, Cheltenham horses come back and win Cheltenham races, as we say every year. Sam says a similar thing. Is there any concern about brighter days ahead running the Mares Novices Hurdle? I know there are excuses, and maybe she's a better horse, but does that concern you? Big Shug says that Jade DeGrugy doesn't run keen, but she was very keen in the Novices last year. So that certainly is something to bring into the mix. And Dale Grimbles took the risk on July Flower. So good luck with that one. That sounded sarcastic, but it wasn't. It was genuine. All right, let's move on then. The champion chase. 8-11 is John Bond. Il est Français is 5-1. Energamine 6-1. Gaelic Warrior is 6-1. Banbridge 8-1. El Fabiolo 10s with Marine Nationale and Solness at 10-1 as well. And then you throw a few at bigger prices, the likes of your Master Chewies, maybe your Captain Guinnesses, maybe Founder 50 and Liberty Hunter as well at bigger prices. But once again, we have a short price favourite in the champion chase. Where have we got? We've had 12 odds-on shots in the last 25 years, and only 3 of them have won. It is the worst race at the festival for short price favourites. And obviously, John Bond is almost by default starting to get shorter and shorter. He's an incredible horse, Maddy. There's people's questions on Cheltenham. Is he at his best at the track, which I think is slightly nonsensical. However, he still is 8-11 for the champion chase. And I think part of the reason so many odds-on shots get beat is because rattling around Cheltenham at championship pace over 2 miles, one mistake and it can ruin your entire race, as we saw last year with El Fabiolo.
He was the one I was going to mention, Ross. Yeah, and the thing about John Bond is his jumping hasn't been flawless throughout his career. I think maybe it's, and I'm guilty of it as well, for slightly overplaying it. But equally, there's no arguing with the fact that his defeats have come at Cheltenham as much as he's won there as well. And he has also put in some really suspect leaps, including when he was beaten by Elixir de Nuts, of course. And for me, backing horse at 8-11, that's just something that I'm never, ever going to suggest. But I do think this race is one of the most interesting of the festival, purely for the reason that there's so much pace in it. John Bond himself has gone forward. Il est Français is a rock-solid pace horse. I think he might run here, and I hope he does, because I've backed him anti-post. Energamine can go forward. Gaelic Warrior can go forward. Solness goes forward. Then you get down to Matata. There's so much pace in it, and I think that could expose any jumping frailties in any of them, including the odds-on favourite in John Bond. So it's a really, really interesting contest. The only thing is, if you're looking for one who, granted that setup, could improve, you're looking at your Marie Nationals, perhaps your horses at bigger prices, the likes of Liberty Hunter. I'd have liked to have seen him perform better over the weekend, although it was a very, very good run. Like I say, I'm hoping that Ile Francais runs here, but if I was to look at this market afresh, I would go with Solness. It would be a slight concern that there is so much pace in the race, but equally, front runners have a history of upsetting in this contest. You look at Special Tiara, Politolog, Put the Kettle On. They weren't up to the scratch of the favourite in the race, yet they made most of the running and shocked to win. And I think Solness now, as a dual Grade 1 winner, is probably not quite being given the attention that he deserves. I thought what he did at Leopardstown last time in the Dublin Chase was absolutely phenomenal, to be honest. The pace that he seemed to go, and I thought Marie Nationale would surely have him over the second last, and he just kept going. And I think you can't underestimate horses in that form, particularly when it comes to this course at Cheltenham. We see time and time again how front runners come to the fore, and I just think this is a prime example of a horse who's being underestimated because of how much he's improved in recent times. But we've seen horses do that in this race. It's not a shock to the system to see improvers bridge that gap. So I think he's probably not quite being given the respect he deserves. And while you talk, I'm going to try and shut my dog up because she's barking constantly. But yeah, Solness, I'm very interested in, Ross.
We can't hear her at all, actually. So fair play to her. She's obviously. Maybe it's a different frequency, Solus is interesting because I do feel in these kind of races, normally you'd look at a 7-year-old like him, but I think part of the reason as well 2-milers get beat short prices in this, because I do think with experience you get better over this trip at this pace. And for a 7-year-old, he's had 10 runs in the past 12 months, which is more than some of these had in their entire career over fences. So. Is he a bit of a jello that if he was trained by someone else?
Well, I don't know. He's trained by Joseph O'Brien. He can win Grade 1s at any level, can't he?
Yeah.
And any code.
But if his name was Gaelic Warrior,
I think he's just surprised everybody in the fact that he's improved at the level he has done. But he has, he did go off pretty fast. I do think they might have let him get away. Myself, I think Gaelic Warrior doesn't like Leopardstown. But I also think he desperately needs soft ground to be effective at 2 miles. And whether we get that, just because we've had it for the last couple of years, doesn't mean we will again. Ile Francais, I don't get him being entered for the champion chase. I know a lot of people disagree because it looked like he went, too fast at Kempton, but he didn't go too fast. Actually, it was one of the fastest finishes of King George for ages and ages.
It's a massive
drop in trip, and they're talking about not going to the Ryanair to avoid Factor File when John Bond's a miles better horse at the moment on figures than Factor File is. Now,
also, why not play to your strengths rather than the opposition's weaknesses?
Yeah. Well, why go into a 2-mile race with loads of pace on it?
Yeah.
If you want to make the running. When historically it's much easier to make the run in the 2-mile 5 trip at Cheltenham anyway.
Last 16 winners of champion chases all had course form as well, and that's another big thing. He's going to come to Cheltenham for the first time, and try and beat 2-milers. It's a big.
Exactly.
I know Tom put him up for this anti-post before, but it's taking a punt at a big price is one thing.
Yeah, taking a punt at a big price, but the price is now ludicrous.
Yeah.
The price of John Bond is fair. I think I don't think you can argue with him being favourite. At the start of the season. I think I said in a big jump-off preview that I expected him to get found out and something to come through and dislodge him. And what's happened is virtually everything else has been found out, and he's gone from strength to strength.
Yeah.
And if ever a horse deserved to win a champion chase, it's probably him. He turns up pretty much every single day, doesn't he? His 3 defeats all come at Cheltenham. You can't really hold losing to Constitution Hill, even though he got thumped in a hurdle race there against him. Can't really hold losing to El Fabiolo against him because he jumped brilliantly that day and. He went off, 1-4, 2-9 for the champion chase last year before his troubles surfaced. And the only thing you can hold against him is that mistake he made against Elixir de Nuts when, but you only have to do that once in the champion chase, don't you? So
the thing about that was the race was supposed to be run a week earlier and James Bowen rode him, and there's enough there to suggest that he wouldn't necessarily on his A game. But I mean, the thing is that he's unbeaten for Nico, and Nico gets a cracking tune out of him.
Yeah. So he's definitely the one. He's definitely the one to beat. If it is if the ground is as deep as it was last year, I'd back Gaelic Warrior. Because I do think he's a very, very high class horse, but he has to have.
Do you not worry, Keels, that his only sort of exceptional performance has been in the Arkle? I'm not sure if he's overall slightly overhyped, and he's not an easy ride either.
You know, he might be. I mean, I think he's a horse that comes right and goes wrong. But I genuinely, they keep running him at Leopardstown, and I think it's quite patently obvious that he doesn't like the place.
But I mean, Maddy's got a point. He's ran to 172 at Cheltenham. His next best is 159.
Yes, I
and 159,
I fully understand that. It's an outlier at the moment, but I would, but under the same circumstances, I'd give him the chance to do it again. But he needs them same circumstances. So again, he's not an anti-post opposition. I can see the case for Solness, but in the opposite, if it's very soft ground, I wouldn't like him because I think he doesn't want it very soft.
The horse we haven't probably talked about, this is the first time in my life I've ever fancied Marine Nationale for a race. I've never fancied him for anything he's ever run in, which is, and he's won 6 of his 10 races, so generally come out on the wrong side of him. But he was odds on for the Arkle last year, anti-post, before he didn't make it. And again, you're talking about horses putting in bad performance. He's put in one bad performance, which was at Leopardstown last year, and then we never saw him again for the rest of the season. So clearly something went wrong that day. I know Solness has beaten him twice, but what I really liked last time is Solness did get away from him, but he's the only one to come out of the pack. He made up 10 lengths on Solness, got to his heels, and was still coming back at the line as well. It was a coming-of-age run for me, I thought. He's only had 5 runs over fences, which is half the amount Solness has had in the past 12 months. There's got to be more to come. He's a supreme winner. He's got course form. And like I said, he's only been at the placings once, and that was in that novice chase at Leopardstown. So I've never fancied him before, but for me, people say, he doesn't necessarily want to win, or he always gets played, whatever it is. But he's got to run his race. He's
a talented horse. He did look like he might be on the way back there, and that was a career best for him. But it was only an RPR of 163. Against John Bond's peak 177, so that is an idea of how much he's got to
John
find.
Bond, should he?
No, he shouldn't beat him. But we've seen stranger things happen in this race, obviously.
Yeah, we have indeed. David Stevens, it could be again, it's another one where you look at that lineup and you think if most of these turn up, we're in for a treat.
Yeah, in terms of Ile Francais, I'd be amazed if he ran here and not the Ryanair. I know they, as you say, Kills, they're scared about factor file, but dropping back to 2 miles, even, it'd be lovely to see a front running grey going at it, but I'm just not sure they need to be taking on Solness. I agree with everywhere. I was nodding along, Ross, where you were giving your case for Marine Nationale. I thought it was a much more encouraging run last time. That said, he did still get beaten by Solness, who is definitely still being a little bit underrated, I think, for his 2 Grade 1 wins. But the most likely winner, without any doubt, is John Bond. I come back in 8 to 11 now. Potentially on the day is a different story. But he just looks, he's better than ever this year. He set such a high standard. Let's see what price he's on the day, because he can't be much shorter than he is now, I'm sure.
Yeah, absolutely. A good time to read this coming out on last week's show, by the way, as well. When Tom was talking about the Presbury Cup, CMIX5DP, which I think is Keel's password for his email, said, the only problem for Britain is while they have a good chance of winning the graded races, they seem to only have one horse in each race that can actually win, bar the Triumph. Obviously only one horse can win, but taking on 3 to 4 Irish horses that can win will make it harder than it seems. And this, more than anything, typifies that lineup. I mean, the second favourite's coming over from France, and then it's Irish. So, yeah, it is an odd one. The British horses, we do seem to have our best chances for a long time, Keels, but like you said, they are leading the charge on their own.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, but that's just the way it's been for the last few years now. It'll change one day.
When?
I don't know.
Will we still be around?
How old's Willie Mullins?
When does Willie Mullins retire?
Well, it'll change one day, but that probably won't be for quite a while.
No, and given Willie Mullins' breeding, as it were, it's probably not for another 20 odd years, is it? Okay, so if you going to back anything in the championship right now, Maddy, it would be you told me, didn't you? What did you put up?
Thanks for listening, Ross. Yeah, it really makes me feel important.
No, I was listening. I'm just trying to remember what it was.
To be fair, I did jump around.
It was Solness.
It was Solness. Yeah, I think He's an extraordinary horse, and horses like him are always underestimated.
Yeah, absolutely. Because he's wearing the wrong silks. Right, let's go to the Brown Advisory then, shall we? 3 miles the distance, 3 miles and 110 yards, which in a race like this can make a lot of difference. For this Grade 1 novice chase, Ballyburn 2-1, Dancing City 3s, Croke Park 10s, Better Days Ahead is 10s, Django Bay 10-1, Lecky Watson 12-1, Stella Story 16s, Kida Bourbon 16-1, and then it is bigger and a lot bigger, the rest then for the Brown Advisory. And this race only, I don't know why I thought of this, but it's so top heavy. It reminds me of Harry Maguire. It's one big head at the top of the betting, and everything else is struggling to get involved here. It's a very strange market, isn't it? It is a very strange market. Obviously, we've only got the 2 mile now, the 3 mile novice chase, and then we've got the handicap in it as well. And I think that novice handicap is going to be absolutely red hot, and there's going to be 5,000 horses entered into it. And people will say, Keels, that but it was supposed to strengthen up the other races, getting rid of the mid-range novice chase, as it were. However, I still think Ballyburn would be a fairly short price favourite, depending no matter what lined up against him.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. I mean, he's certainly got the best form in the race, hasn't he? But I don't think he has that aura of invincibility that he did have when he came here as a novice hurdler. I'm not absolutely convinced that he enjoys jumping fences, to be honest. He was better at a more sedate pace, it has to be said, in at the Dublin Racing Festival. He had to work to beat Croke Park. He did win by 5 lengths at the end. He was keen early. I suppose that keenness will be trained out of him now. He's going to be trained for longer distances, assuming nothing happens to Madgeman and he doesn't decide to go back to the Arkle.
Anything could
because
happen
obviously that's become more of an option again. But yeah, he's the horse to beat, but I don't think he's unbeatable. I'm just not convinced about him as a chaser. I don't think he's going to be the superstar everyone thought he was. That's my view of him. It might be an unfair view, but
I'm not. It's a funny one. I think so much has been made of that Sir Gino race, and I feel it's a bit like, I don't know, Galopin de Champs raced against Prime Galopin de Champs raced against a Prime Shishkin over 2 miles, and Galopin de Champs gets anywhere near to him and then makes an error at last. It's just they're completely different horses at speed track. I don't know. I was quite impressed that he actually got anywhere near him over 2 miles.
Yeah, but you're talking about a young horse who won a Grade 1 over 2 miles over hurdles by 7 lengths at Leopardstown. Less than a year earlier. So
that is true. The only other point I would make,
it's not a slow horse.
But he ran to an RPR of 158 getting beat that day. There's only one other horse in this entire race who's run to that level over the correctorate. So is it just that is this just not a slightly weak division?
It might be a slightly weak division, but again, with novice chasers, they're all improving at different rates. And,
that is true.
And we don't know. And I have a feeling we could give a slightly bigger field. I like Dancing City. I don't quite see what he's done to merit being as close to the betting in Ballyburn as he is, though. He's only won a couple of races over fences, and on RPRs, and what he's done, he's just about 10th in the list. You know what I mean? So he hasn't done that much, but obviously we know that he was a deadly consistent horse over hurdles. I was originally keen on Better Days Ahead, who Tom tipped, for the simple reason that he won the Martin Pipe last year. It's a race that does tend to produce good staying chasers, and I thought it'd be an each way bet, but he's not. If you like him at 10-1, then you've got to like Stella Story at 16-1 because he should have beaten him yesterday. In fact, if the jockey got after him from the back of the second last rather than till after the last, I think he'd have won, and he was giving him £5. And he won the Albert Bartlett last year. Now, I think he wants soft ground.
Yeah.
But I think he's a tough horse, and other than that one terrible run behind Croke Park where he couldn't jump, I don't know how many mistakes he made in the fog, but he made 2 bad ones when you could see him. But he was much better. He was much better at Navan yesterday.
But that was on good. Again, his good ground runs are shocking. His soft ground runs.
Yeah,
are great.
Absolutely. If it's soft ground, I think he's got a right chance.
Yeah.
And he's a much bigger price than he should be. Again, we haven't got too many from Britain, have we? The Jukebox Man is obviously out. He would have been a massive player. Handstands isn't going to run, isn't entered. Django Blue and Jinko Blue are quite interesting
Well, Jinko Blue's entered in the Reynoldstown this
He's
weekend.
running in the Reynolds, and he's the one that looks more like the 3-miler for me. And obviously, Django Blue's got good form at Aintree, so I wondered whether he'd go there. And Jinko Blue's the bigger price of the two. So he did quite well to beat Lowry's Bar, who's been improving rapidly over fences at Windsor, and could be of interest if he gets through Ascot okay.
Yeah.
As an each-way alternative, I'm not saying that Ballyburn isn't the most likely winner, because he is. Just not convinced he's going to be as good as everyone thinks he is.
Yeah. It was more as I looked at this and I thought a lot of these couldn't run, and Dancing City is just very, very short. I
tell you, we talk about Henry de Bromhead. I tell you who could go well at a price, Gorgeous Tom.
Okay. He's not on tonight.
He's not on tonight. He was only 4th of 5 to Croke Park at Ferryhouse in December, but he looked like being dropped at the second last completely and ended up getting only beaten the left because he flew home, and everything about him says he's going to be a 3-miler. It's all 3 miles plus in his pedigree, and he could be very interesting, especially when the Bromheads come back to form.
Okay, Maddy, are you in the Ballyburn camp, or are you looking at a bit of a slogger at a bigger price against him?
Yeah, I found myself agreeing with quite a lot of what Keels said, and it's not often I look at a Cheltenham Festival race like this and I almost certainly know what I think of it, and I don't think that verdict's going to change, barring anything hugely dramatic. And I do like Dancing City. I agree that I think I wouldn't back him now at 3-1. I would probably wait until the day, because I'd hope that the Mullins bandwagon would roll on to Ballyburn and everyone would get sucked up into the hype as they have done in the past. But I'm with Keels. There's something about his jumping technique, his racing technique, if I'm honest, how keen he can be, how he's not a straightforward horse to ride. Ruby Walsh and Paul Townend have touched upon that I struggle to believe he's going to quite deliver on the hype in the way that some of Mullins' other horses have. That's probably quite harsh considering what he's achieved. That run behind Sir Gino, there wasn't an awful lot wrong with it, and he did beat Croke Park last time. But for me, that horse was far too close to him going to the last for him to be an absolute superstar. Whereas in contrast, Dancing City is what you tend to want for this race. He's so straightforward. His record speaks for itself. He was beaten in the Albert Bartlett last year, but I don't think there was any issue with that, really. Still ran a very commendable race, and then went on to reverse the form with the Jukebox Man at Aintree when he was very impressive, and then confirmed that with High Class Hero, and that was the story of him really at Punchestown, in that I just think he only really does what he needs to do. He's never really going to look flash, and maybe that's why he's not put up some of those huge performances on the figures. He's just very, very solid. We saw him idle, and his lead was reduced on his chasing debut at Punchestown, so you can say he's value for more than that defeat over Shannon River. And then last time at Naas, that proper testing uphill finish, I thought saw him to best effect, and I thought he beat two real top notchers in Bioluminescence, who is surely destined for a grade 1 at some point in her career, and Good Land as well. I think it's an interesting game they're going to be playing with Dancing City, because he's not the sexy one. He's probably not the number one from Clough-Sutton, but I think he's going to beat Ballyburn, and I would hope he'd be good enough to beat the rest, because I don't think this is shaping up to be a really deep renewal. I was just looking down the runners there, and I find it hard to get particularly enthusiastic about much else. I thought if Springwell Bay ran, I'd be interested in him, but there's got to be no chance he's going to turn up in this. And the rest, I'm just not sure how I measure them. Whereas with Dancing City, you know exactly what he's going to do. And I still think we haven't seen the best of him, because he's always only just going to ever do enough. So for me, I would much rather back him, even though I do see the lad's point about 3-1 over Ballyburn at 2-1. I just think that's a no-brainer in the way I like to bet and the horses that I like to back.
Okay, that's fair enough. It's I do think you're all wrong about Ballyburn. I think too much has been made of it. I mean, he's run to 150 plus on his last 6 starts. Not even Monkfish did that, and he went off 1-4 for this. So I don't know. I'm really looking forward to seeing him over 3 miles. But David Stevens, which camp are you in?
I'm not in either of the first two in the betting. I mean, Ballyburn just looked an absolute thorough stayer last time. He could well be a Gold Cup horse in future, just by virtue of the fact that he can stay. Keel's touched on the one that I like, and he has got to learn to jump better over fences. It's Stellar Story, but should have won yesterday and with a slightly, but his jumping improved massively yesterday from the time before. And you look back at the Albert Bartlett he won last year. I mean, he had the Jukebox Man behind him, Dancing City behind him, Gidley Park behind him, Lecky Watson. These are all horses that have come out and won races this year, and good races in some of their cases. If he just brushes jumping up, I think he goes there. I think he goes with a better chance than Better Days Ahead, and he's 16-1 compared to 10-1. They are both, of course, trained by Gordon Elliott, and Gordon to win this race is, I'm just trying to see where I've written it, 7-2 from 5-2.
A race he's never won as well, David Stevens, which is weird given how many stage
Time
chases
for everything. Yeah, that is surprising. Yeah,
that's why the prize boost in there. Right, fair enough. Okay, right. Let's rattle on one more race to rattle through. Paul Kealy is not going to rant about how this race shouldn't be in the festival. Otherwise, we'll be here all evening. Bambino Fever is 5-1. Calypso Chance 6-1. Wind Beneath My Wings 6-1. Copacabana 8-1. Jalon Duderie is 10-1, and it is 14-1 bar those. So let's go with the 16-1 shot here, Keels. There'll be no drama this end. Do not moan about this race.
No drama this end.
Do you have any angle whatsoever, or should we move
idea,
on?
But bear in mind, if you are backing a Gigginstown House stud horse, that they're not massive fans of this race. Jalon Duderies was third in it for them last year. He was their first runner since 2020. They've only won 7 horses in it since 2009.
Okay.
So Calypso Chance is another one of theirs and one of the favourites. So just be careful. The fact that Jalon Duderies hasn't run since is probably not going to help.
Shouldn't be able to run it, should they?
Sorry?
Should you be able to run a horse in the champion?
Yeah.
After you've
running it? Yeah, you've done it. I think Rhythm Section, one of the first, maybe the first winner running it again, didn't he?
You should be able to.
Look, we haven't got time to. But you should not. You should absolutely not be able to run in a race entirely designed to get horses ready for National Hunt racing a year later after you've already done it. You should get one shot.
Right, you should be allowed to run more than 2, as far as I'm concerned. But we don't have that rant because I do it every year.
Yeah.
And talking about, I've got one who's ran in 4, 3 of them in Ireland for Patrick Flynn, 1 for David Pipe. I was really impressed with him at Ascot. Pipes have won the race twice, which is about a tenth of the time Willie Mullins has won it, but they have won it twice, and if I was going to have a bet, that'd be it.
Okay, yeah. The only thing I could really was again, it's very an RPR of 128 in a win in a bumper is about your level normally to go for this, and there's only Calypso Chance and Wind Beneath My Wings have actually hit that, and there was only 2 horses in it last year, and one included the winner. So
Jalon Duderies has as well, isn't it?
Yeah, but I discounted him because it was in last year. I mean, going into the... Anyway, look, he might not... Anyway, whatever. Maddy, what do you like?
I don't know whether to admit to this because I feel people will take the Michael out of me. I had a bet in this race earlier, and it was no drama this end. The Brits haven't won it since 2016, Ballyandy, Nigel Twiston-Davis, but I think this horse is very different to other horses that Paul Nicholls has run in this race recently. He's never won it, so this horse is going to be a big stat buster. It's not a division that I've got particularly excited about. I don't think there's a real standout. I thought Wind Beneath My Wings was hugely impressive, but then at the same time, you're talking about a horse who managed to get beaten in a race at Ballinrobe, which I'm not sure how many will have done that and then gone on to win a champion bumper. Anyway, no drama this end. He's well known by the Ditchit team, given that he's been produced by Will Biddick, who he won his 3-mile point-to-point for in Britain at Bradbury Rings, won by 23 lengths, and then was purchased for 160 grand by Tom Malone and Paul Nicholls at the festival sale last year. What he did at Warwick, I loved. He wasn't even sent off favourite in the end. That was Keeps de Boards for the Skelton team, who's clearly very highly regarded. I think those two are both going to turn out to be above average types. But no drama this end. He was always racing prominently. He wasn't keen. He looked incredibly straightforward. He was nudged to get into the action around the home bend, but when he really got into top gear towards the line, that was when he looked most impressive. Eventually he came 3.5 lengths clear under Harry Cobden, and he just looked like a real speed horse, but who also had the stamina that you need to win a champion bumper as well. The acceleration he showed to put to bed a pretty decent rival. I thought was very, very good. He's got the pedigree for it. You know, he's a walk in the park. His 3 siblings all won over 2 miles, and with Chacho, Spirit of Regulus, and Monty Bodkin. So pace is clearly in the family. And, you know, it's the cliche, isn't it? But he has the stamina, having won that 3 mile point to point, and looks strong at the end of his bumper. I like the way that Ditchit have been talking about this horse. I think they don't want to get carried away, but I think secretly they know they've got a very, very good one in their midst. And I think given the way that Paul Nicholls doesn't seem to target the race or the meeting these days, if he does run No Drama this end, that's a big pointer in itself. I think he's probably going to be his best chance of a festival winner this year.
Okay, No Drama this end then, a 16-1 shot. David Stevens, wrap it up. Snappy.
Yeah, I was just having a look, actually. Paul Nicholls has his Cheltenham stable tour in today's Racing Post, because I can't remember Paul having runners in this bumper, and he said we would want it to be soft, but I'm very much looking forward to running him. He's a very exciting horse. So
Captain Teague was second, Alpha Off was second.
Yeah, Tishan led up last year.
Tishan led up. You said it, Ross.
So it's always that to me, man. Anyway, never mind. Okay, so lovely stuff.
Apart from those horses, I can't remember one he's had. A couple of winners over the weekend. We saw Eternal Echo. She won on Saturday. He won, sorry. He's a 16-1 shot. Copacabana won yesterday at Navan. He's in an 8-1 shot. Whatever Patrick Mullins rides will win.
Okay, fair enough. And David Stevens, wouldn't you look lovely with a yellow feather in your hair and a dress cut down to there? Anyway, never mind. Okay, lovely stuff. Right, let's get the best bets for tonight's show after this.
We're into the final bend of the Coral Fan Derby, where racing lovers of the UK are in a spectacular contest. And watch this, he's shaking his phone like it's a pocket-sized maraca. They're all getting rewards now. He's shaking it, she's shaking it, they're all shaking it. Play the free Coral Reward Shaker to win guaranteed daily rewards and offers. Coral, we're here for it.
Right then. From what we talked about tonight, Paul Kealy, is there an angle that you might well put a penny or two down on?
Yeah, I think Stellar Story is overpriced for the Brown Advisory, should have beaten Better Days Ahead.
Okay.
Giving him weight.
Thank you very much. Maddy?
Can I say that Dancing City, but not right now?
Wait till he drifts on the day.
Yeah, wait till he drifts on the day. I think he's the one I'd be most confident about. So that's never a good sign that me and Keels are taking each other on, but I'll go for it.
Okay, fair enough. Marine Nationale for the champion chase for me. I think, again, he's best run last time out. Coming to the peak, course form. More to come from him. David?
Stellar Story and Solness each way double.
Ah, lovely stuff. Thank you. Right, everyone.
One needs soft ground, one needs quick ground.
Look, you never know what might happen between. Hang on, what race is the Wednesday and then? No, they're the same day. Yeah. Okay. Right. Okay. We won't be with you on Friday. It's Valentine's Day. Me and Keels are going out for a romantic meal for two. Not together. So we'll be back.
You might be.
We'll be back. We'll be back next Monday to preview more Cheltenham fun and games. Thank you to Keels, to Maddy, and to David. See you next time.